Well, great is the Lord and greatly to be praised. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Tuesday night of the Prophet's Porch. This is the platform where we are preparing a people to propel. We're propelling folks, but we're preparing a people to propel in purpose and in destiny. We're so happy to be back with you on this Tuesday night, live and in living color. We're going to be continuing our series on the fence of offense. And I have a great friend of the Prophet's Porch. He is a great friend and brother to me. He is no stranger to this platform. I have the Apostle Ray Williams, all the way from Dallas, Texas, the Reset Church, that is going to be with us in just a moment. I'm so excited. He always has some very weighty things to say on any subject matter. But I haven't heard him say anything that just wasn't weighty on any subject matter that I have experienced him ministering on. Great voice, great visionary, great leader, great preacher, great teacher, great prophet, great husband, great father. The man just has greatness down in his DNA, and I just so appreciate the Lord for him. In fact, I just think about my life. The Lord has surrounded me with some great people, and I'm going to have some great people on this platform this week. They don't even know they're going to be on here yet, but I'm going to call them. When you're friends with folks, you can just call in favors and say, hey, I want you to come, and they'll just drop what they're doing and come and be with you to support you in what the Lord has given you. Welcome, Apostle Ray Williams, great man of God. God bless you, Apostle.
Bless you, sir. Thank you so much for having me. I'm elated to be here. I was listening to you do the intro, and I got to tell you, man, I'm humbled. I'm humbled, and it's a privilege to stand here on the Prophet's Porch. You know what the Prophet's Porch means to me. I've said publicly, privately, in front of your face and behind your back, what I believe the Prophet's Porch is and what God's doing on it. And I'm just humbled to be sitting here. And I do not take for granted where I'm sitting. So I appreciate the opportunity. I hate to say the invitation because it's really an opportunity. It's an opportunity to be used by God and an opportunity to be a part of something great. And I'm just appreciative. Thank you, sir.
Oh, you are so welcome. The feeling is definitely mutual. We're excited anytime that your busy schedule allows you to be with us. Certainly you have so many kingdom responsibilities and family responsibilities. And so I know what that means. And so I don't take it lightly that you make yourself available every time we call. There's not been one time you told us no. And so I don't take that for granted, Apostle. I don't want you to think for a second I take for granted because your voice is in demand. I know what that is. You are in demand. I mean, you get calls all the time. And you get calls all the time. And so I know what that is. And so I just want you to know that I'm grateful. I'm grateful.
I'm humbled. And, I believe in quality ministry and you know this, and some people can handle this, what I'm about to say. Some people may not be able to, but I say no more than I say yes. And I'll tell you why. In the day that we live, there's so much platform chasing that we forget to purposely be assigned to an assignment. And
absolutely.
So, for me, it's important to know where God is calling me and when I'm assigned to do something and when I've just been attached to do something. And I think it makes a difference. And I believe that the Prophet's Porch is a place of assignment. And I earnestly believe that I would not be here if you did not feel like it was an assignment.
Oh, definitely. Listen, you know me, I don't have time to waste. I always talk about time. It's so important to me. And I don't believe in wasting mine. And I don't believe in wasting the time of others. If the Lord is not in it, if he has not ordered it, he has not ordained it, then it's just not even worth the effort because there's not going to be any lasting fruit from it, if the Lord hasn't ordered it. And so I'm excited you are with us. With this very important subject matter. We're going to be talking about the fence of offense. We got some fences to deal with, Apostle.
Yeah. That's I think we're living in a time now where there's so much that we can be offended by. And to be honest, for those of us who are committed to righteousness, there is so much that we could choose to be offended with, because so much now is thrust in our direction to be offended. Everyone can get a pass, but the church, we have to be offended and just take it.
Right.
And so this is going to be, I don't know how much time we'll have tonight, but this is one of those subjects that I believe, Bishop, honestly, if we can master managing offense, our sanity would be more intact.
Oh my gosh. You just said something right there. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to add to that. If we can just manage our conflict styles, there will be more peace in our life.
Absolutely. And I think for the church, and I don't know whether this has been your experience, but it's definitely been mine. Oftentimes people who are churched, and especially people who grew up in church, they learn a lot of stuff, but they don't learn conflict management. And
some of those, and for the sake of our discussion on tonight, Apostle, there's some things that really cause us to, I wrote down 4 things that cause us to stay on the fence of offense. And those 4 things are being critical, being mean-spirited, being defensive, and being silent. Those are the 4 things, the 4 major things that I believe that cause us to get stuck on the fence of offense.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
It's that being critical, and I found this out in my own life. If being critical feels like a personal attack, and what's our natural inclination? It is to become defensive and have an offense with the person. And whether they're critical, the critical, some people are just critical. Let's just say that. Some folks are just critical. And their personality sometimes is offensive. Absolutely. And you and I both have met some people with some offensive personality types.
I'll be honest. At one point, I thought I had an offensive personality type because I could walk into a room and people would be offended just by the way I walked into the room.
Well, let me be honest with you. Your personality type is strong, and you can be offensive to a person who doesn't know who they are. A person that doesn't know who they are is going to be offended by you because guess what? You have the oil on you to pull out what's in the people around you. You can pull out. You're anointed to pull out what's in the room. Lord have mercy.
Listen, somebody write that down for me. I'm anointed to pull out what's in the room.
You are anointed to pull out what's in the room.
What's in the room? Someone please write that down for me.
I have seen, Apostle, I have seen you do it. You are anointed. It's not, see, some people, folks that have a spirit of offense, they'll be offended by you. Why? Because the oil on you is an oil that draws out. Mm-hmm. Lord, I feel the Holy Ghost right here to draw out what's in the room.
And it took me some time to grow into that. And one of the byproducts of not growing into it or not maturing into it in the way that I probably should have in times past is I would easily be offended, not realizing that I was trying to defend the offense or justify why people were offended by my presence. Wow. And that of course came with me not fully knowing who I am. I mean, not knowing who I am or who I was, should I say. And the more I grew into that, the less it mattered.
And, folks will accuse you of being mean-spirited because you're not easily offended by what they do. They'll think that you're being arrogant or mean-spirited, but it's not being mean-spirited. You just know who you are. You can't apologize for knowing who you are.
Yeah, I've gotten that a bunch. He's arrogant. And I asked a guy, I said, let me ask you a question. Have you ever had a conversation with me? He says, no. I said, have you ever been in a room with me for more than 15 minutes? He says, no. I said, have you ever heard me have a conversation? He says, no, you just come across arrogant. I said, arrogance isn't silent. Arrogance is very boisterous, very boastful. I said, what it could be is when I walk into your space, I don't need you to validate me. And by virtue of that, you become offended. And I got that from a brother who just observed me. And I went to him because I was offended that people were offended by my presence. And he says, Ray, don't worry about that. They don't know you to be offended by you. It's just you don't fit the mold and you don't need them to validate you. And because you don't need them to validate you, they dislike you. Because when people don't know who they are and they're not comfortable in who they are, then they're uncomfortable with people who do.
Well, you and I kind of dealt with a little bit, I say it all the time. You and I, our relationship became more close. It became closer in this pandemic, and
Mhm.
so forth. And before, we've never physically met each other. We've never physically been in each other's space. And
Mhm.
so before you even ever talked to me on the phone, you had some thoughts, just seeing my ministry style. Talk about that a little bit.
Man, and I could say this because I've said this to Bishop offline.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought, boy, that's an arrogant joker. And I would listen to him preach, and I'd be like, that joker said that because much of your ministry, when I first started listening to it, I'd be like, boy, you better be careful. You call him, he gonna cut everybody in the room. And not only would he cut them, then he gonna make them clap. Now clap your hands, clap, 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 clap. And then one day I listened, and there's a difference. I know what the old folks say. Well, you listened, but did you hear? I heard one day. I heard the heart of a surgeon going in to undo in a people so that they could be healed. And my perspective changed.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that you were arrogant. It wasn't that you were mean. It wasn't even that you came to cut, but your assignment were for people who had gone callous in their pain or callous in their position. And God had given you a grace and an anointing to be able to go to the core of the callus to remove it so the person could see, feel, and be again. And my perspective changed. And of course, once I got to spend some time around, up close and personal during the pandemic, I realized he's far from arrogant.
Far from it.
Far from it. That's not who he is at all. But I got to say, the first year I listened, I said, that joker right there, boy, I tell you, I bet he walk on water.
We've been following each other for about 13 years. Hasn't it been about 13
it's
years?
been about 13 years, yeah.
Wow.
And it's a testament, it is a real testament of the caliber of people and persons that you and your wife happen to be, that substance and that the relationship could be that substance virtually. And we've talked about this, that removes excuses. You can grow in the midst of this pandemic if you remove the excuses and the barriers. And what I appreciate about our relationship is we don't have to agree on everything. And we're okay. We're okay if we don't agree on everything. We find the common ground and we learn from it. And that goes to dealing with offense as well, because every disagreement doesn't mean that there has to be an offense.
And it doesn't have to be a fallout.
Absolutely. To kick this thing off, I want to first make a very bold statement. Being offended is a choice, and falling out is absolutely a choice.
It is.
You can choose to fall out, and God's not glorified in that. And you really miss out on an opportunity to really experience a very good and prosperous relationship.
Right.
And that's a choice. You have to choose that.
Because a fallout is a position that you choose. It's not something you're forced into. You choose that. I can choose to fall out with you because you didn't call me when you said you were supposed. You could have chosen to be offended and fall out with me because I didn't call you Monday like I said I was.
Absolutely, but because I understand the nature of the relationship, and here's another thing: where there's true value, offense cannot stand.
Right. Absolutely.
Because true value breeds understanding. I know that your schedule is as busy as mine. I know that you got stuff going on that you're dealing with in your life that, okay, no big deal. He didn't get to me Monday. It's not because he meant me harm. It's not because I wasn't valuable. It simply could have been, the day got away from him. It simply could have meant, he wasn't feeling well. It simply could have meant his appointments overtook him that day. And so, I could have chosen to be offended. Now, he said he was going to call me Monday. But I've been dealing with so much stuff since Sunday night. I'll be honest with you. I didn't have see when you're operating in purpose, you ain't got time to be babysitting an offense.
No, you don't. You don't. You really don't. That's not activity that you really want to put your hands in, because you got your hands in so many other things. I don't have time.
Absolutely. The time that you would dedicate being offended by people who don't even care that they've offended you, you ought to be offensive to you yourself.
Oh my God.
I would offend myself if I entertained the thoughts of people who offend me.
Right. Absolutely, absolutely. Being a person, being a truth teller, and my willingness to be a truth hearer,
Mhm.
because in order to be a truth teller, you have to be willing to be a truth hearer. And so there are many opportunities for me to be offended. People don't
Mhm.
like what I post on social media sometimes, and I get inbox messages. And one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to banter back and forth with you. It's my timeline, it's my opinion, it's my information. Most of the information that I put on my Facebook timeline are excerpts, and I've told you this before, excerpts from things I've ministered, excerpts
Mhm.
from my book, excerpts of something that I'm researching or something. And so my most of my stuff that I post on the timeline is stuff. Guess what? I'm just testing out for my audience to see, hey, if will this information bless someone? And so
Mhm.
we have many opportunities to be offended on social media, but we can't fall into those traps. Offense is a snare. And that's one of the definitions of offense. It's a snare, it's a trap, and so forth. And we can't fall in the trap of offense, because guess what? Offenses are very dangerous. They tie up our time. They can tie up our resources. People have had $1 million lawsuits, Apostle, just because of offenses, just because of an offense, just because.
You know what's crazy?
Go ahead.
As we mature, or as we should mature,
Hmm.
how we deal with being offended should really, really change.
It should.
Should really, really change. I think a sign of being able to properly manage your maturity level. And listen, let me just say this for all of my reset people, all of my Ray Williams people. Listen, tag someone, share this broadcast out, share it with a family member. I know some of you got, there are a couple of people who are hosting watch parties in the house. They're bouncing it to their television so people can see.
Oh, wow.
So I'm hoping that we don't disappoint today. So this is going to be good. So I got people over watching, and I'm thinking, I hope we're good.
Wow. Wow.
But I think as we navigate being offended, because it's inevitable. You've said this, I've said this, and a million. It's inevitable. You'll be offended, and oftentimes you'll be offended by people you love, and you'll be
Right.
offended by people who love you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You get it? And I love the way you said it, Bishop, a moment ago. You said because you are a truth teller and a truth hearer.
Right.
That is so rich in and of itself. And the reason I say that is this: a lot of folk can dish it; they can't handle it.
No. And
But
I'm not going to sit here and lie and say I always pass the test and handle it when I have to hear truth. Apostle, our wives can tell us some truth that can't nobody else tell us.
my God, my God, my God, and I'm gonna
You
leave that
already
right
know.
there. I remember the early days of me preaching, man. Um, and if you've never been in this position, people may not understand it. I would go and I would minister, and I would really need my wife to tell me, "Hey, you did a great job." And so I would get in the car, get in the truck, and say, "So how did I do?" And man, she would just pick it apart. I mean, she would pick it apart. You didn't say this scripture right, and you misquoted that scripture, and your rhythm was off here, and I've heard you do better. I said, did you hear how those people were clapping? And so I became angry. I said, you always got something negative to say. Did you not hear how those people were clapping? Those people were shouting. And then she said something that floored me. She says, those people don't love you. Those people don't even know you. Those
Come
people
on.
don't have any expectation of you. But because I love you and I know you and I know your capacity, I won't settle for mediocrity. You did not do a good job today. Now,
Wow.
I'm still here with you. I'm still going to be there the next time, but you did not do well today. And as my ministry grew and my preaching matured, I realized that once I got beyond the offense, see, because there are two things you can do in offense. You can either validate the offense or look for the lesson.
Oh my God. That is critical. That is critical. Look for the
Absolutely.
lesson.
You can either validate the offense by giving power to it, or you can look for the lesson. And when I looked for the lesson, I realized if she had not had those private conversations with me, I probably would have been a public embarrassment and not even have known it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm telling you, our wives cover us in ways that we don't even know. They cover us in ways, and I say a wife is the best alarm system that a husband can have. Lord have mercy.
Or the best broomstick.
Or the best broomstick. Because you either have a husband can even have a wife or a knife.
That's it. That's good. That's good. And we're not talking about that tonight, but just to drop this in your Easter basket before Easter.
Come on.
For all my sisters, if you're a silent voice, you could be a voice of trauma, because men need to hear a voice of the head that they lay next to, the woman that they lay next to, the wife that they lay next to. That voice is critical. It's crucial. That voice is very critical. It is crucial because that voice can serve as a barrier. That voice can serve as a reef. That voice can serve as a comforter. That voice can serve as a confidant. And so you got to find your voice, because the worst kind of person to be next to is a silent person.
My. And let me take it a step further. Some in marriages, some wives are offended by their husbands continually because their husband has silenced their voice. They don't have a voice in their house.
And that's, that's so unfortunate. And I believe that even that is because somewhere along the line, the husband has been offended by something that came from the voice. And because they saw that as offense, they took it on as disrespect. And then they became overbearing. And so that I'm not dealing with the offense, I would just steal your voice. If you touched on a soft spot, if you touched on an insecurity, if you addressed an inadequacy, then now I'm going to be monstrous and steal your voice so that I don't ever have to worry about you being offended. But here's the key. If you stomp out the voice of your confirmation, you'll always be clueless.
Wow. Repeat that again for me, Apostle.
If you stomp out the voice of your confirmation, you'll always be clueless.
Clueless, Apostle.
Because
I'm telling you.
Let me tell you something. There's certain things that through your wife, through your spouse, God's going to confirm.
Right.
And if you steal their voice, I mean, think about it. Think about something. And we it's the prophet's porch. We talking to church folk. Think about something. If Pontius Pilate's wife voice was not there, and he was going to send Jesus to be judged, he was going to judge Jesus. What would have happened if the voice of the woman that laid next to him said, I don't think you should touch this man. I discern there's something different about him. I think you need to send him back. I think you need to send him back and let them do whatever they're going to do. But baby, I don't think you should get involved in this one. Now imagine how history would have been turned out of our favor in a different direction if the wife of the king didn't have a voice. When you're the king of the house, what makes you a great king is that you can be, the voice of your wife can be empowering. You get it?
I get it. Wow. Yeah, and I'm telling you, and listen, the Apostle, the king has the king, or I'll say the head of the household, because a lot of wives don't like to call their husband king. So, but I'm gonna leave that alone.
Yeah,
but
they should be calling him Lord. But that's you see, if we say that tonight,
you about to start something. You about to start around.
Exactly. If we say that tonight, it's going to be a problem. But I remember Sarah. I think she called him Lord. I think I have a biblical reference for it. I do.
Wow, you do.
I believe I have a couple. I believe in colonial. Well, let me leave that alone.
Oh my God! But I was going to say, as
can I go ahead and say it, because if he's the Lord of Lords. I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm sorry.
No,
I ain't gonna get in trouble tonight. But if he's the Lord of Lords,
Lord,
the King of Kings,
come on.
How do you worship the Lord of Lords? And how do you reverence the King of Kings? And you have an issue lording. Let's move on. We're talking about offense, and I don't need to offend nobody tonight.
Oh, it's okay. They'll cry a river, build a bridge, and get over it. It's all right. It's all right. But what I was going to say is, as headship, we have to learn and master how to hear concerns without assuming that it's personal. And that's an area that have um, I have I have failed a lot. Now I'll be honest, I have failed a lot in my relationships.
Mhm.
Hearing concerns. Again, going back to that thing, what I said, I'm a truth teller, but I don't always do the best and being a truth hearer, or I haven't always done in my history. I haven't always done the best in being a truth hearer, and
Mhm.
so I haven't always been able to hear truth and hear concerns without assuming that is personal. And in that, sometimes we struggle there because we have problems taking responsibility for our role in the issue.
Not only that, healed people hear differently.
Wow, say it again, Apostle.
Healed people hear differently.
Healed people hear differently. Lord
Hurt
have mercy.
people hear something that's not been said. They hear what they feel and not necessarily what's been said. But healed people hear differently. When
Wow.
I'm operating from a place of wholeness, I can be okay with constructive criticism because I don't automatically see it as an attack. But when I am wounded and hurting, I hear criticism and I think enemy.
Wow. Right. Exactly. And we hear enemy. And let's talk about in our marriages because it's a team. We're not trying to win against each other. We're trying to be one, have one face and one voice. Two people, but one face and one voice.
Mhm.
It's never me against you. And we have to break that habit and so forth, and which goes to and I want you to think about this question before you respond to what I just said. I
Mhm.
want you to I want to present you with this question. What habits do you think we need to break to avoid becoming offended, or to get off the offensive offense?
Whew. Well, I think the first thing we have to adapt, the first adaptation we need to adapt is this. We need to discipline ourselves to hear to listen with the agenda of hearing and not with the agenda to defend ourselves.
That's good. That's good. That's real good.
Because if I'm listening to hear, then I'm open to what's being said. And I'm genuinely listening so that I could hear the heart, the intention, the
Mm-hmm.
value, and the substance of what the person's saying. But if I'm listening to prepare my rebuttal, then it's very possible that I'm listening to defend myself because I'm so used to being attacked that now I'm on the defense. I'm on the defensive because I'm about to cause an offense. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean the person is looking to offend me, but I'm because I am so disjointed and I'm so unseated in my own emotion. I'm in my feelings. Then if you critique me or critique what you're doing or what I'm doing, then I'm automatically offended. And we see this a lot in ministry. There was a young man who approached me about mentorship and ministry, and I knew he wasn't ready. And so I took a look at his ministry, admired his potential, admired his anointing, and I thought, you know what? His presentation is horrible, though. And I
Right.
thought to myself, let's give him some input. And he instantly became offended. And I said, well, why are you offended when this is what you asked for? Because here is the thing. Constructive criticism helps me construct something that is critical.
That's good. That's good.
Constructive criticism will help me construct something that is critical to a need, that will meet a critical need. And everything that we're doing, the only way we have any level of sustainability is that it serves as an answer to a critical need. And you cannot grow with yes men.
That is so true.
You
And some of us
cannot grow with
around.
yes men. And so you said it a moment ago, and I love that. And that is, we're good sometimes at talking it, but maybe we've struggled to hear it. And the first thing we got to do is change how we hear, because again, healed people hear differently. Whole people perceive differently.
That's good.
Wounded people look for a reason to be offended, and wounded people will always feel attacked first. You got to talk them down.
Yeah. And also a person whose uh, spirit is polluted with offense, their hearing is polluted.
Absolutely.
their hearing is polluted, because they will always they'll always gravitate towards the pollution and won't hear, what's going to help them.
And the reason that is, and it's unfortunate, but the reason that is oftentimes what is familiar to us is also fatal to us.
Wow.
If I grew up and all I ever had was offense, and all I ever had was rejection, all I ever had was pain, all I ever had was betrayal, that is so familiar to me that I operate in my life from a perspective of defending myself against rejection. And it becomes fatal because it kills relationships that could be. It kills quality relationships because, let me tell you something, when you live in a state of offense, you will attack those who are not a threat.
Oh my, I have been there. I've been there on both ends, Apostle. So I know what that feels like. I know what that looks like, because for a long time in ministry, all I knew was abandonment and rejection and so forth. And so I expected people to reject me when I didn't meet their expectations, or I didn't do it like everybody else. So I had to learn to be okay that with the fact that my ministry was going to look different than everybody else's, and that my assignment was going to be different than everybody else. So I couldn't be offended by the responses and the reactions that I got, because folks will try to change your assignment because they're offended by it.
Absolutely. Or this. Some people are offended that you are sure in your assignment, and it's not so palatable to them.
Absolutely.
And I just learned that I'm not for everybody.
No, you're not.
I'm okay. I used to didn't be, but I am now. My style of ministry is not for everybody. If you need someone to babysit you, my ministry is not for you. If you need someone to pet you, my ministry is not for you. But if you need someone to help you heal, my ministry is for you. If you need someone to give you truth and love you through your process, my ministry is for you. But if you're looking for an enabler, my ministry is not for you. It's too in your face.
Yeah. They listen there. It's not going to be a successful fellowship if they need a whole bunch of hand holding, and they want pacifiers and applesauce.
Exactly.
Reset Church is a meat ministry.
Listen, and that doesn't mean that we won't walk with you. That doesn't mean that I won't walk with you, but we need to be walking.
Right.
We're not going to have 10 sessions about why you're offended. You get to tell me why you're hurt and why you're offended and why you're broken the first 3. After that, we're talking about, now, where do you want to be on the other side of this? Because here's the thing. Offense is like a rat trap.
Wow.
It'll clamp down on you, but it doesn't kill you instantly. It suffocates you over time.
Right. Over time. And that's even worse.
Mm-hmm.
That's even worse, because that creates long lasting and lifelong sometimes problems, when something is killing you, like that, or taking life out of you, so to speak.
I think when another thing that we can do to be able to combat how we respond to offense is we have to be accountable and responsible for the circle that we put around us. One of the rules that I try to live by so that I don't have to be bothered with petty offenses is this: never take constructive criticism from someone who's never constructed anything.
Wow. Unpack, like Pastor Ira says, unpack that for us, Apostle.
See, if you've never constructed anything and you come to give me constructive criticism, there's no need for me to get offended, because I don't even validate what you say, because what you say didn't work for you.
Wow.
And if you've never, ever constructed anything, my ability to receive constructive criticism from you becomes compartmentalized as, in process. In other words, when I see it working for you, then I'll validate it for me.
Then I'll validate it.
And so you set parameters whereby I have to myself be accountable for. So what does that mean? I also have to be accountable enough and bold enough to put myself in circles and in room with achievers.
Oh my, I love it.
And I've learned something about successful people. They will offend you because you're mediocre.
They will. They absolutely will.
When you realize the level of intensity that winners move at, Your slow pace is offensive to them. When you realize the intensity, the focus, and the discipline and the sacrifice that people who make it, and you walk into a room just blase, wanting to chew the fat and tickle the monkey or whatever you call it, you realize that that's offensive because they realize something about time. Time is the most valuable commodity we have. And I cannot spend God's precious time being offended by what they said, what they did, how they felt, what they said about me, whereby I'm wasting precious time validating that when he has said something totally different about me. And I need to spend time meditating on that. This book of the law shall not depart out of your mouth, but you shall meditate on all that is written therein. You shall meditate on it day and night. That's not talking about light from dark. It's talking about in good seasons and in bad seasons. And then observe to do all that is written therein. Then you will find your way and you'll make your own way prosperous and you'll have good success, which means we have to be able to manage our offenses in such a way where we begin to compartmentalize them. Case in point, my son's a basketball player. He's not beaten me yet. You get it? He's beat a lot of people. He hadn't beaten me.
Not yet.
Not yet. But I remember the last time I beat him, he said, "How did you make that shot?" I said, "Son, don't become offended. Just learn the lesson in it. And the lesson is this. I know everything that you know." He says, "No, you don't." I said, "Yeah, because I taught you everything you know, so I know what you don't know." Now, somebody in ministry is going to catch this. Some young minister who's mad with his pastor is going to catch this. Some young minister who's mad with his bishop is going to catch this. Some bishop that's mad with his mentor is going to catch this. If I taught you everything you know, I know what you don't know, and I know what you need to know, because everything I taught you what I know. And as I grew, I know more, so there's more for you to know.
Wow. And then there's that.
And then there's that. And I'm going to leave that right there because that can get really, really ugly. That can get really, really ugly. Because here's the thing. You could have curriculum, but never had an opportunity for application and still not be exposed. And then you become offended because you feel like someone's not giving you an opportunity.
Well, we sometimes in ministry, I can just remember me being young and being groomed in ministry.
Mm-hmm.
I got offended by the application of some things that were being required of me, and some things that I've learned. And we were taught some wrong things,
Mm-hmm.
but as we have gotten older and matured, we learned how to unlearn some things and so forth. But the application sometimes is what causes us to be offended in ministry. And we miss some very critical downloads sometimes. And that's, what's called, what the cause is for some of us, being stuck between levels, being stuck, between execution and being in the meantime. We get stuck in the meantime because guess what? We too busy being offended by what the Lord and those who have spiritual authority over us are requiring of us.
Well, oh man, I almost don't want to touch that. I'm not going to. Jesus,
please touch it, Apostle.
Can I touch it?
Touch it. That's why you were born here. You will touch it.
Okay. We first have to go back to the church that realized that God would put spiritual authority over you.
Right.
See, because now we pastor in a culture where everybody's their own person and there is no authority, and I don't have to submit to authority. I can be my own person with my own personality and my own agenda, and I could bring it to the house of God. And because where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's liberty. You should let me just do me.
Yeah, because I'm grown.
Or there's another extreme. I'm grown. You can't tell me how to live. Well, the scripture says that God sends pastors after his own heart, which means that there are pastors that are assigned to your life. People think that they can get a blessing from you, then leave you and keep the blessing.
Well, and that's just like when folks come to our churches and get licensed and then ordained and then leave.
And I've always, now one thing that I've learned, especially in the church world, is this. Whenever people come to my church offended by their last church, I always proceed with caution.
Okay.
Because I don't know how many of the churches you've left offended, and it's only a matter of time, possibly, before you leave my church offended.
Well, yeah, I approach it a little bit differently than that, Apostle. My style has always been when they come with an offense, because my ministry, for just my pastoral ministry and my ministry now, has always been, if they're offended, then they need a place where they can get their ears cleaned out, and you can be a safe place for them. So that's been my focus. Just to evaluate and review how the offenses happen. And guess what? We're going to use the word of God and how whatever the Lord gives me to help you to minister to those wounds and minister to the offenses and so forth, and just to be just a safe place to be a put them on a treatment plan until the Lord says something else.
And see, my approach is very different. My approach is this. I know the order and the fragrance and the atmosphere, the environment in which we set. So it's okay that you're offended there. That's not going to happen here. But what I don't want to do is set an environment for you to come and us preach about your offense, because you can't heal and be offended in the same breath. You're going to have to choose one. You have to choose to either A, get over the offense and pursue the healing, or B, you could stay stuck with the offense, use it, build a monument to it while you never make it to your place of healing. Wow. And so my approach has always been just holistically minister to everybody that comes through the door. But I'm always cautious when people come offended, because oftentimes I have found that most offense can be handled with a conversation.
Oh my.
Most, not all, but most. Not all. There's some offense that we just need to part ways. We need to just move on, and that's just what that is. And one of the other things we got to learn is when we manage offense, we need to have a good CMP. We need to have it, and churches don't teach that anymore. In my mentoring class for entrepreneurs, I teach CMP. You need to have a great, strong CMP. You need to have a rock solid CMP. You just need to have it, and if that's in place, you're good to go.
I know I look smart, Apostle. What is a CMP?
Crisis management protocol.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. Bishop said, I know I look smart, but you need a good crisis management protocols. You need to have those in place. How do you manage the crisis? How do you manage that? Is this a valid crisis? Is this something I should be offended by, or is this something that I have an opportunity to grow from? Now, once I'm offended, and this is where many people miss it in our friendships, in our marriages, in our relationships. We think that the true success of a friendship is that you're never offended. That's not true.
It's not true.
The true success of a marriage is when you're never offended. That's not true.
Not true.
The true value of a relationship, a friendship, is when you can become offended and grow beyond it. Because can I tell you something? In any God-ordained relationship, there's also ordained offense. Because offense, I'm going to say that again. I know some church folk that's upsetting your religion, and that's okay.
It's okay.
Any God-ordained relationship will also come with God-ordained offenses. The scripture says, know them that labor among you. If Elijah and Elijah if there had not been no offense, if he could not stand when they were mocking him, if he could not stand when he felt like he was being overlooked, if he could not stay faithful when he thought that he was going to get cheated, he could have never grabbed the mantle. But because he had good crisis management protocol.
You said something, and Elder Allen just posted a comment, ordained offenses, and thinking about ordained offenses, the Lord will use ordained offenses to push you into your next.
Absolutely.
So that's a part of God's exit strategy, from certain places and so forth. He will use an ordained offense to just to push you forward. He'll use it to thrust you forward like an arrow. I've seen the Lord.
Let me tell you, I've experienced that in my own life. I remember I had an assignment a few years back that I fell in love with, but my time had expired, and the Lord kept telling me, it's time to move on. It's time to move on. Right. And I'd fallen in love with the people, and the Lord kept telling me, it's time to move on. I said, yeah, but I don't want to leave the people. He said, don't worry. They're all about to leave you.
Wow.
And he said, son, when you stay longer than your assignment is, you leave with scars that are never intended for you to have. Don't worry. When it's time for you to move, if you don't move when I say move, then God has a way of using offense to push you out. Case in point, when the brook dried up, the prophet knew it was time to move. God
Yeah.
will dry your brook up. He will shut your manner off. He will dry up relationships because he's pushing you to the next place of purpose. And that's another reason we got to learn to properly manage offense, because is this an offense or is this an opportunity?
Absolutely. Another way to know when a season is over, not only will he use ordained offenses, but guess what? When the benefits lift, that's when you know it's time to leave.
Say that again, please, sir. That's good. Somebody should write that down.
When the benefits lift, I'm not going to tell you who I heard say it first.
Okay.
But but I'll tell you, she was the one calling African angels, and I'm gonna leave it at that. But yeah.
I'm offended. I'm so offended that you would bring that. No,
but that was good though. It was good though. She had, she was a little bit more anointed back then. This was.
Can I tell you something? Some offenses are sent to bless you.
Yeah.
Some other offenses are sent to move you.
Yeah.
Other offenses are sent to tool you. Some offenses are sent to rearrange and reassign you.
Mm-hmm.
See, you should not give. Let me tell you something. You should not give the person who offended you so much power that you don't get some fruit from it.
That's good. That's good.
You don't mean that much to me where your offense is not going to teach me something. If nothing else, it will teach me that I was stronger than I thought I was. I could deal with more than I thought I could. And if it taught me nothing else, it taught me that you leaving me didn't end my life.
It didn't end my life. That's why in talking about the fence of offense, Apostle, some fences are good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are people that are near and dear to me that offended me in the early days of my ministry. And I mean, they really offended me. And I'll be honest with you, some of it I know I didn't deserve.
Wow.
But when I look back on it, I am so grateful it happened the way it did. Because here's the thing. If I hadn't been offended at a lower level, I would have never sought higher ground.
That's good.
And if I'd never sought higher ground, I wouldn't realize that I was meant to soar and not crawl.
Wow. Wow.
And so you have to decide in your marriage, in your relationship, you have to decide, is this offense worth ending the marriage? Or is this an opportunity for us to go to the next level? Because if we can pass the offense test, we can be trusted with a new dimension. If we can pass the offense test, we can really dig into the deeper purpose for why we were put together. If we're friends, if we could pass the offense test, we can better enjoy the friendship because we're not busy looking for the offense and picking everything apart. See, because when you're offended, you start questioning people's motives.
Yeah, you do. Oh my God.
And some people have pure motives. There's a person that I was connected to not long ago, and I really had their best interest at heart. But when I felt like they questioned my motives, I totally withdrew. Because one of the things that was a deal breaker for me is I can't help you if you don't trust me. I can't help you if my motives are being questioned and I'm being sincere and I'm being pure, because it only takes the devil to help you misunderstand one thing before you break my heart and offend me. And I would much rather say, you know what? Let me leave that where it is. That fence is going to lead to nowhere. Nowhere fast. Exactly. And see, the fence of offense. See, here is the trick to it. The fence of offense, it builds the fence that you think keep other people out. But you have to understand that same fence keeps you contained. And so the barrier that you've built for your enemy has also become your own private prison. Wow. Prophet Keonda, the Lord is going to help you. He is going to help you pass the test, and you're going to pass it with flying colors, woman of God. It was ordained of God that you dealt with, or that you are experiencing the offense, because the Lord is preparing you for just another level of anointing, another level of hearing, another level of warfare. It has been ordered by God, and you are going to pass. I see you passing this test with flying colors. That's why the warfare has been so tremendous, the emotional warfare, woman of God. But the Lord is going to do it for you, and He is going to clear your name.
I hear the Lord say, he said he's going to clear your name, woman of God. He is going to clear your name.
And what I see for her is the Lord is allowing this offense to manifest the way it is because he's trying to isolate her, to draw her closer to him.
Absolutely.
And so she feels almost rejected and abandoned, but it's not that. She's in seclusion.
Wow.
And it's a God seclusion. God's drawing you closer and secluding you because he does not want the offense to damage and to poison the promise that he has vested in you.
Wow. Wow.
And I mean, I could go further, but I don't know who listening.
Well, you on the Prophet's Porch.
Because here's the thing. There are some people throwing rocks at you that was right there with you.
Wow. She said, I received it.
There's some people throwing rocks at you that were right there with you. And there's some people throwing rocks at you. And the only reason you're dealing with some of what you're dealing with is because they betrayed you and lied on you.
Wow. Wow, 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 wow.
And those kind of people, and I'm just going to tell you, it's almost unfair. But for those of us who've been marked by God, and it's really unfair, but it's necessary. We have to deal with people who brutalize and brutally offend us, and we still have to stay accountable. We still have to stay holy. We still have to pour. We still have to minister. But here is the thing. It's working an exceedingly a greater weight of glory in us. And to whom much is given, much more hell is required. Much more grace is required. Much more pain is required. Because how can I preach with the conviction that I preach if I've not lived through the pain that I've had to live through? How can I minister like I minister until I have had the manifestation of my misery be on display before people who didn't care if I lived or died? How can I bring peace? How can I bring reconciliation until I needed to be restored from the ravenous wolves and the ravenous and rabid dogs that came after my destiny, after my gift, after my ministry, trying to tear my name down, tear my ministry down, tear my family down, tear my marriage down. And all you tried to do was be good to them. I'm here to tell you, if you could manage the offense, God's going to give you a reward that's so great. That's going to cause those that offended you to run back to you and say, girl, we mean nothing by that. The only reason you're feeling what you're feeling is because they could see what you're marked with. They could see the oil that's on you. They could see the destiny that's before you, and they can't stop it. And when people cannot stop you, when people cannot take credit for making you, when people cannot say, I made Avery Kinney, if it hadn't been for me, when they can't say that, they will attack it. Because how is it that he got the same 2 legs, 2 arms, 2 eyes that I have, and God's taking him where he's taking him? Simple. He's been able to trust me not to mismanage my pain.
Jesus.
I ain't getting to go and do all of that, but Jesus, I feel what that girl's going through. I'm here to tell you, sister, you got to stand. Having done all to stand. And don't you stand simmering down. Square your shoulders, lift up your head, look the devil in the face and tell him this ain't over.
It ain't over.
This ain't over. And if you think I'm going to get offended and lay down, you got another thing coming. I'm going to properly manage my emotions. I'm going to come up with a good, strong CMP, and this too shall come to pass. And on the other side of this, I'm going to be better. The only reason God's letting this happen is because he knows I can handle it. That's what my enemies don't know. That's what my enemies don't get. If God let it happen, it's because, listen, when God allows your enemies to offend you, when God allows your enemies to gain ground on you, your enemies think that they're defeating you. But the truth of the matter, they're a tool. You're just a tool in the hand of God. God's going to use what you have done, what you have said, what you have taken, what you have told, and he's going to use it to develop me. And when he deploys me, you'll still be there telling the same testimony, the same story. While I'm gone and grown, you'll still be talking about what I did to people who are stuck.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. I better act right. Okay.
Oh, no. Okay. This is the Prophet's Porch. This is the Prophet's Porch. You on the porch. Hey, This is what we do. This is what we do.
See, the enemy's sphere defense to destroy us, Bishop. Absolutely.
Trying to.
I remember a few months ago, the Lord had told me to tell you something. I said, Lord, Avery don't want to hear that. And I started talking to you. You say, I definitely say, I want to hear that. I want to hear that today. And then you say, I'm about to get off the phone. And I said, well, I can't say what I said in front of people, but but here was the thing. I knew, I said, listen, when he gets by himself, he's going to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And you did.
I did.
You did. And when you think about that, we could have built a fence there that would have divided us. You mad at me, I'm mad at you. And it's like, okay, in 6 months from now, we wouldn't have even known what we were mad about.
You wouldn't even know. And I made up my mind, Apostle, I don't have time to be being mad at folks. I don't want to be mad at nobody.
I don't want to live my life mad, man. I don't want to live my life upset with people who don't matter.
Yeah. I don't want to be upset with people that do matter. I don't want to even be upset with the ones that do matter.
That's my point. People who mean something to me, let's have a conversation. Let's fix this. But here's the thing. I'm going to use your words. Now, Bishop Kenny said this, but I'm going to say it. In order for us to fix it, you're going to have to be able to hear some truth talk.
And some truth hearing.
And some truth hearing.
Yeah.
And people, when they don't want the truth, do you know that some people are so accustomed to living in offense that when they're not ready to hear the truth, they'll go find a liar?
They'll go find a liar.
But they will find somebody to lie to them.
They'll find somebody to lie to them. But, and some people, Apostle, have the tendency to hang up the phone, or the call will mysteriously drop. And so some folks, you just need to talk face to face so I can look you in your eye and, so we can have a heart to heart. Some heart to hearts, even in this pandemic, some heart to hearts have to be had face to face.
Absolutely. I believe whenever the spirit of offense, because I do believe that offense is a spirit. Now, I know I'm always getting on you, Avery. You call everything a spirit.
You do.
I need some chocolate ice cream. That's a spirit. That's a spirit, right? That's a spirit of chocolate ice cream. But anyway, I believe offense is a spirit.
Yeah, it is.
When the spirit of offense comes on a person, the person don't often know it, but that spirit of offense has been sent into fertile ground to contaminate the soil. It's a seed that's sent to poison the soil. Right. So if it's a marriage, and I've dealt with this in my own marriage, and I think if you're married for any length of time, if you've never dealt with offense in your marriage, you might want to question if you really have a marriage. I listen to people, I'm married, you've been 30 years and never had an argument, never yada, 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 never. Well, listen, you can't help me. Okay. You can't mentor me. I need somebody who had to go and be offended and someone who's gotten beyond the offense. I need someone who's been hurt and had to put the hurt in perspective. I need someone who's been mad as hell and have said, you know what we have is greater than what I'm mad about. And if you give me time, we can build beyond the offense. So I need somebody who's been there. I need me to mentor me. You're going to have to be a general.
Yeah, you're going to have to be. Listen, I need somebody that knows what it is to have an anniversary to be able to celebrate. That's another year we didn't kill each other.
I don't know if I go that far.
Well, listen,
we still here.
Another year that listen, we still together. We fought this thing out and we stayed together.
And I'm gonna tell you something. In any relationship, not just your marital relationship, if any relationship is worth it, it's worth fighting beyond the offense.
It is.
Now, what we have to begin to deal with is this. Why are we so easily offended?
We're so easily offended, Apostle, sometimes because we have, again, unhealed places in us that there's some rooms in our life that still need to be swept out.
Man, that's good. How do you sweep, Bishop? And this is a legitimate question. I'm not just asking it for ministry's sake. Just a legitimate question. How do you get to a place where you can sweep out a room when the person keeps the door locked?
Well, it takes some work. It definitely takes some work. Supernaturally, a locked door is not a barrier for God, because the presence of God can get through a locked door. And so, again, and I'm not trying to sound deep and spooky, but I will say that I have been able to successfully minister to someone who in their communications with me, it always felt like they were talking over a fence. And because the Lord had anointed me or assigned me to that person, I was able to talk to them over the fence enough that they came to unlock the fence.
Good.
And invited me in. And
Now,
so, because eventually, because the Holy Spirit can minister to a person in a place that you can't access. And so the supernatural will cause even an undelivered and unhealed person to make supernatural decisions that bypass, their feelings, that bypasses what's in their heart, and that will bypass the wounds that they keep pretending like aren't there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What are some practical ways for the people who are listening to us tonight? What are some practical tools and tips that we can give people to say, okay, I realize I'm offended. I realize the toxicity of the offense and how it's impaling my life. Bishop, what do I do to move beyond it? How do I start? Because I'm offended so deeply and I've hurt so deeply, and I've been carrying this way of thinking and this way of being for so long. Okay, I know I need to change, but where do I begin? Where do they begin?
Well, the first place I believe, Apostle, that you have to begin is acknowledging, because we're so good at living in denial and acting like things aren't there. We have to acknowledge, man. Acknowledgement is so important. I don't think I've heard that word as much as I've heard it since being married to Pastor Iris. And I'm not throwing shade or anything, but well, I'll just say this: women are big on acknowledgement. You can't apologize to a woman and not acknowledge what you did.
Well, I don't believe you can apologize to anybody without acknowledgement, because acknowledgement is accountability.
Well, I'm just talking about mouths, okay?
I mean, think about it. If I kicked your dog and I just sorry for what? Oh, I got
what I did. What I did.
What I did. What'd you do? You know what I did. No. I need you to acknowledge what you've done. I need you to listen. I believe for an apology to be sincere, and this is something, I'm huge on this. When people apologize to me, I said, no, for what? What are you apologizing for? Because in order for me to receive the apology, I need to be clear on what aspect of the pain that you're addressing. Because what if your offense was multifaceted?
Well, sometimes, let's just be honest, sometimes people can have a need for acknowledgement that's not there. They just use that to be controlled. And then there's that.
That's one way to look at it when you don't want to be accountable. That's one.
You hear the sound effects in the background.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it. Because see, here's the thing. You don't want to acknowledge what you've done. And because I require the acknowledgement so that the apology can be validated, now I'm controlling. No, The truth of the matter is, if the apology is sincere, lay down on your sword, sir. Lay down on it. I apologize because I kicked your dog. As a matter of fact, I apologize because I made up in my mind that I was going to kick your dog. I waited at the park until you came walking your dog. I wore my good kicking shoes with some good strong socks, and I waited until you got close enough for me to be able to get a good kick. And I kicked your dog, and I knew it was going to hurt your dog, and I apologize for that.
I can digest that apology.
See, that's a lot different. You know what I did. I'm sorry for it. No. Tell me to the degree that you have premeditated this kick, because I've learned something, and it's not just with women, but I will agree with you, expressly with women most times. It's almost difficult to hear a person apologize for something that they can't articulate, because if you can't articulate what you did wrong, it's only a matter of time before you do it again.
Yeah. Do you hear Iris Skinny in the background?
No, what's she saying?
She is about to explode over here.
No. I mean, but seriously, if a person is apologizing for something that they can't articulate, they'll wind up apologizing for the same offense again. Because if you can't articulate why you're apologizing, it's because you don't understand the nature of how you've offended me. And here's the key. You're apologizing because I'm upset or because I'm angry, not because you own what you've done. Because in order for you to own it, you can voice it. And until you can articulate it, you don't own it.
Wow. That's good, Apostle. I can receive that. I can receive
And I'll be honest with you, that took some time for me to get there. We both know what it was. Well, we both know, but see, here's the thing. Here's the thing. You could be apologizing for something that I'm not mad about.
Oh, wow.
So you could make the assumption that I'm offended on the A part of the offense when I'm beyond that. And what really stings me is the B part. Okay. And so I need you to acknowledge that part, because that's the part I need to heal and find closure in.
See, this is what I love about the Prophet's Porch. I come in and I can learn. I appreciate that. I'm so grateful because I'm learning, Apostle. You know, we've been married. It'll be 14 years in August that we've been married. Pastor Iris and I have been married, and I'm always looking for tools, you know, because I know I'm not perfect. It's not easy being married to a prophet.
It isn't. It really isn't. You know, I almost don't want to say this on air.
Well, go ahead and say it.
I knew you were going to say. How did I know you were
going
to
say anyway.
That? I get a lot of attention, unsolicited attention from females, and I often tell them, this is not what you think it is. To be married to a prophetic person, to be married to a ministry gift, to be connected to a ministry gift in an intimate and interwoven and intertwined emotionally, spiritually, physiologically with a prophetic person really requires a grace.
Oh my God.
If you don't have it, you set yourself up to be abused.
Because
you got to be able to handle when I want to be alone. Because you realize that I'm not rejecting you. It's the call of God, and there's a burden he's putting on me. But if you don't have the grace for that, you see that as me needing space from you. And now you're feeling some kind of way. You can't handle when I'm going through body intercession of what's happening in the earth. And you hear me moaning and groaning, and you're trying to figure out, is he sick? Is he okay? No. I'm responding to something in a totally different realm. You don't understand what it's like when you wake up 3 o'clock in the morning because I'm screaming and speaking in tongues because I'm tearing down a principality that's at the gate of the region, and you're wondering why I'm making all this noise, and so you're upset because you can't sleep, as opposed to getting on your knees, and while I intercede, you cover me while I cover the city, you cover me while I cover the church, you cover me while I cover the region. You got to be called to that.
You got to be called to.
You got to be called to that. And if you're not called to that, you're going to live offended because the agenda of God's not going to die because you can't handle it.
Right. That's so true. Early in our marriage, when we first got married, Pastor Iris, because I used to shout in my sleep, I used to scare Iris, but she's used to me waking up, speaking in tongues. You know, she's used to all that now. You know, me, my weird sleeping patterns. I wake up at 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning, walking through the house, speaking in tongues, and just praying in the spirit and warring and calling things out. And just like you said, you know, when you're a gatekeeper or when you're a regional voice, the warfare is going to be different, and God requires something different of you. So forth. And so, she's used to all that, but it's not easy being married to a prophetic gift. God knows.
Can I take you deeper?
Sure.
I don't know that I should, because they say whenever you and I get together, it always goes left.
Well, I knew it was going to go left, so
I'm going to say this as.
Just say it, Apostle. This is rated R, real and relevant.
Okay,
so go ahead.
But it don't have to be too raw.
Stop playing. Go ahead, Apostle. Stop playing.
I'll say it like this. You also have to understand that many people who are deeply spiritual are often very deeply sensual.
Yeah.
And many people who are deeply spiritual oftentimes can be deeply sexual. And if you've not called to that, then you have a difficulty balancing who you see in the pulpit and who you see in the bedroom or the car or the garage or the kitchen counter or wherever.
Did you say kitchen counter, Apostle?
Wherever it takes place, you know. And I don't say that to be crass. I really want to help somebody there, because there are people, there are women who are married to ministry gifts and men who are married to ministry gifts. And they assume that when they married a preacher, that they were going to always be in the Holy of Holies. But when he comes down, he's a beast in the bedroom, and he don't want to listen to Jesus' joy. He might want to listen to something else that doesn't sound like Jesus in the moment. And you got to be able to deal with the mechanics of that, so that you don't become offended and feel betrayed because, hey, I thought I married a holy man of God. Well, you did, but see, this marriage bed here, baby, it's undefiled. It's wide open. It's a free reign up in here. And whatever we do, God ordains, God blesses. He says he would give us strength to do it.
Yes, he did say it.
He did say it. And so you'll be amazed at the women of God who are offended because they feel like all he wants is sex. Well, I mean, all Kroger wants is your money for groceries, and you're still going to the store.
Absolutely. Oh my God.
And I tried to say that as sterile as I could, but can you deal with the appetite of someone who can pray for 3 hours? Can you deal with the appetite of someone who wants to screw 5 times a week?
Yeah. And
or a day.
Wow.
Oh, we should edit that. Jesus.
Did he just say that? He said, I'm not editing it. Hey, look, we grown on here today.
We should edit that. Let's
I hope nobody was offended by that.
Well, because here is the thing. We have so many people, and so, let's put it in perspective. The church should be offended at the divorce rate among believers.
Right.
But the reason we can't be offended is because we're complicit in not properly tooling the people of God.
We're not properly tooling them. We're not giving them, we're not properly tooling them, and we're not helping them keep up the maintenance. We're not having marriage check-ins.
Absolutely. But the biggest thing is this, because people will be offended by some truth, we have not been as naked in front of them as we should have been.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. A lot of leaders are leading the people with fig leaves.
Oh, that's good. Oh my God, hold up, I gotta write that down. Say that again.
A lot of people are leading the people with fig leaves.
So you're leading with fig leaves.
Yeah. Oh my God, you hear Pastor Irish?
Yes, I heard of that time.
I
had to write that down. That's good. Oh, that's good. You'll hear that one again.
Oh, you can have it, sir. You can have it.
Oh my God, we're leading with fig leaves.
Oh, I got it from. I got that one. That one came from Pastor Irish.
My God.
Yeah. I will say publicly, I get a lot of my preaching material from Pastor Irish.
And that I'm not often speechless, but that left me speechless. Leading with fig leaves.
Yeah. Oh my God.
My God. Oh my God. There's so much richness.
What's behind your leaf, Apostle? That'll preach. What's behind your leaf? Lord have mercy.
Lord. I'm gonna leave that alone.
Please leave it alone, Apostle. Please leave it alone. Please leave it alone. Would that be appropriate for a leadership conference or a marriage conference?
I believe so. If we put it in perspective, when we think about the fig leaves and we think about the leaves and what it covered scars, it covered vulnerability, it covered what appeared to be failure, it covered fear, it covered disarray, it covered disorder, it covered disobedience. There was so much that was covered by the fig leaves. It covered offense. Adam was offended, and the reason we know he was offended is when God stepped to him, he said, it's this woman you gave me. In other words, we were fine till she came in. You and I had a good relationship until you gave her to me. We were good until she showed up, and she's gone out there, talked to that devil and brought that hell into my house. And look, now I'm hiding in the place where I should have dominion. And that's what offense will cause you to do. Offense will cause you to hide in the place where God has called you to dominate. You get offended on your job and you're the best at what you do. You shine at what you do, but your boss will offend you. You will start cowering down. You will start not doing as much because you're offended, and you will start hiding in the arena which God told you to dominate, because your boss today could be your employee or subordinate tomorrow. But because you became offended, you can't even get to the promotion because now you're so offended, it's beginning to impact your performance.
That is, and you know, that's a real issue. That is a real issue.
That happens in marriage. That happens in ministry. You're offended. You're offended by what she said, and so now it impacts your ability to be intimate with her, to be sweet with her, to be patient with her, because you're offended. Or this is a big one. This is a big one. My sisters were with me until I said this. He cheated and you chose to stay, and now you want to raise all kind of hell for the next 20 years because he cheated. Well, wait a minute. Wait. Either you're going to get beyond the offense, because the offense is beginning to affect your performance too, because you're so mad you can't. Don't you say that, boy. You're so mad you can't connect with him like you need to. Yeah. You're holding such a grudge, you can't be what you need to be for him, because you've never really forgiven the fact that he took something, trust, and violated it.
Absolutely.
And where there has been no closure on offense, there cannot be any restoration. You can't reconcile what you won't face.
Wow. And you know, all some reconciliation can only happen with the assistance of a mental health professional.
This is true. This is absolutely true. And I'll say this, especially for people of color, for Black folks, we need to stop demonizing mental health professionals. Now, we believe that all good gifts come from God, but a gift of psychiatry and psychology don't.
Those are gifts too.
A good gift of therapy doesn't. You will never conquer what you're not willing to face. And until you can face the fact that you're offended, and there are three things that I want to, 3 points I want to make within this. Whenever you're offended, you need to ask yourself three things. Why am I offended? Where has this offense taken me?
Mm-hmm. What's the root of it?
Yeah. Why? That goes with the root. The why, that's dealing with the root. Where has it taken me? In other words, I got the root. Where has it taken me? That's the fruit. And how do I get beyond it? Before you ever go into an argument to discuss the offense, you should have those three elements already sorted out. Why am I offended? What's the root cause of this offense? Where has it taken me? And how do I get beyond it? If you're not prepared to deal with those three elements, don't have the conversation.
Yeah.
Because if
table it until you can.
There you go. Table it until you can. And that issue becomes, in order for me to heal, I have to acknowledge the hurt, which is dealing with the why, the root of the hurt. Then I have to examine, where has this taken me? You know, I was touched by generosity of Miss So-and-so in church as a kid, but then Miss So-and-so talked about my dress and I felt rejected. I felt judged.
Yeah.
Did that open the door? Where has that taken you? Are you now a stripper? I heard a young lady say she became a stripper because at least the men would come and all they wanted to do was admire her body. When she was smaller, all of her cousins and her family would tease her because she wasn't attractive. And so when she finally saw the allure of exotic dancing, she said, I wanted that. It's not that I wanted to strip. I wanted someone to tell me I was pretty. I just wanted to always feel pretty. And not only would they tell me I was pretty, they would give me money to prove that they really thought I was pretty. What she didn't realize is, where has that taken you? It's taking you, you've allowed rejection to take you from a place of good moral standing where you could feel good about yourself to take you to the place, the halls of ill repute, where now you have to hide and not be yourself. And the only way you get out of it is you got to go back to the first bruise.
Gotta deal with it.
People are often looking for a quick fix in their healing process, and there is no quick fix.
Yeah, because all that internal division and disharmony, and that, and I say internal, disharmony and division is not always, with somebody else that's brought it to you. Sometimes it's internal. That is causing all the problems.
Please talk about that. Unpack that a while, because Bishop, so many people, and you and I've talked about this before, the battle in their mind makes something real that doesn't even exist.
Yeah. And again, you said exactly what I was going to say. The battle on the mind. There's a lot of disharmony sometimes in our minds and so forth. Based upon how an offense was dealt with or was not dealt with. There's no harmony in our mind. We can't put it to bed. It's not a dead issue, because our thoughts are not in harmony and so forth. And then there's division. Disharmony and division go hand in hand, because there's this harmony in my mind concerning a matter with a person. Our mindset about it is going to cause division. Our hearts are going to be divided, and then that's going to create a divide in the relationship because the offense remains unaddressed.
Let's talk about you sent me an email earlier, and I glanced at it, and it had something very dynamic, and I don't think I'm qualified to unpack it as well as you can. The part where you talked about offenses maturing.
Oh my God! So an offense will mature. It just like aged receivables. Let's talk like accounting. You have aged receivables. When you decide to receive an offense, or you process it and you allow it to fester, it becomes matured. It starts to become big, like a boil or a cyst and so forth, because it's not addressed and so forth, and it'll become matured. And as offenses mature, the person's responses become immature. Will become immature in their responses. Why? Because there's an offense that has turned into bitterness, and offenses and bitterness will rot. It'll rot right inside of you. It'll begin to give off an odor in your life, and everything you do will become will be birthed from a spirit of offense.
That's what I wanted to get to. You said that offense will begin to rot. Have you ever met people and you know that you can't say certain things to them because they're going to be easily offended, and they go, "Oh no, I can handle it. No, you can tell me." I could smell the stench of offense on you. I could smell the stench of the carcass of offense that you've been carrying for years. And if I try and speak to that part of your life, I'm going to eventually become your enemy. Not that I am one, but you're going to make me your enemy. And you're going to rationalize me being your enemy, because the smell you become nose blind to, but you wonder why people avoid you. Because you become nose blind to the own stench and odor that you give off. And when people are not fully truthful with you, and when people are not fully transparent with you, you think that people have betrayed you, when the truth of the matter is you said something that says, "I'm easily offended." Yeah. If you say that, I'm going to get offended. If you say that, I'm going to run away. If you say that, I'm going to pull back. If you say that. And so, it's very difficult, because when people their offenses have been matured, when they're rotting, you could see it a mile away. She's not going to handle that well. He's not going to hear what I'm saying. The bitterness will stand in there, and we're going to create a new offense, because, and you and I've talked about this, I could tell him, but he's not going to receive it, because some people funnel everything you say through the lens of a past offense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Their ears have, filters of offense. They hear everything through a filter of offense. Mm-hmm. I don't care what you say. Everything, has to be a conversation. Why? Because they're offended. Well, why you said, you ever notice some people, they're offended because they always say, "Well, why you say it like that?" That's one of the warning shots.
Yeah, that's a precursor to I'm about to let you know I'm offended.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. Truth is freedom. The Bible says, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you
Yeah.
free. What it never promised you is that it was going to come in a package you liked.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Never.
truth may come in a package that's not pretty, but
Yeah.
freedom is not free, and freedom is not pretty.
It's not.
The
It's
battle
not.
for freedom is not pretty. The
It comes at
place
a
of
cost.
freedom is beautiful,
Yeah. It comes at a cost.
but it does come with the cost.
Yeah. Definitely comes at a cost. Yeah, and we all have paid the price of being offended and maintaining relationships that are frequently causing offenses and so forth. Some people, again, when a person that's often offended or just that seems to always have an offense, sometimes you just get to a place where you just avoid them. You don't want them you don't want them over your house. You don't want to talk on the telephone to them, and so forth. Your heart begins to shift. Why? Because the encounter is going to produce a new offense. So I would just rather not.
Man, you took the words out of my mouth. And not only that, you will find that offense is so toxic and offense is so demonic because offense is so manipulative. Think about this. Have you ever been offended with someone and then somehow the devil will get you an appointment with somebody else that's offended by that same person, that same company,
And y'all compare notes.
and y'all compare notes? Now, here's the key. You're toxic in your emotions. They're toxic in their emotions. And here you are to compare notes of toxicity.
Right.
And have you ever asked yourself the question? People never ask themselves the question of all the people that God would use to send solace in my direction. Why would he send me to someone who's offended like I am and not send me to someone who's at peace and who can encourage me beyond?
Yeah. That is so true. That is so. And sometimes Apostle, in relationships, we disrespect ourselves in an effort not to offend the person, and so forth. And and it wasn't our heart to offend them, but it's just something about us that offends them. Everything you do offends them, and we disrespect ourselves sometimes.
I think whenever you have to degrade who you are so that someone else is not offended, you just need to you need to exile them. I need to find new company because if me being me offends you, guess what? You're gonna be offended before I am.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I know that sounds cruel, but here's the thing: if you're offended by the very virtue of my presence, then you're just gonna be offended because I don't mean you any harm. I won't, via my actions, cause you any harm. But the bottom line is this: like I never forget years ago, man. I had a guy in my church. I didn't know the guy very well. He had been coming to our church probably about a year, but he never got very active. He would just come and sit. He was faithful every Sunday. And so I was up preaching and prophesying. And so in this particular sermon, I guess I was reading his mail. And so the guy approaches me after church and said, "You're going to stop telling these people my business." I said, what are you talking about, sir? He said, "You're going to stop telling the people all my business. I don't care if you're a prophet or not. You're going to stay the hell out of my business." I said, "Sir, what are you talking about?" He said, "You up there preaching to them people all my business." I said, "Sir, have you ever considered that one, I don't know your business, and two, have you ever considered that when God speaks to a man of God who's over a house of God, that you're not the only person dealing with what you're dealing with? And not only that, sir, if you are the only person dealing with it, and I'm speaking to your situation, why on earth are you angry when God is sending a word through his man or woman of God to address your crisis? And you are so hell-bent on being offended that you can't see the lesson and the healing in it because you think I'm preaching your business. When the truth of the matter, sir, is you're not the only person dealing with what you're dealing with. You're not the only person that's been through what you've been through. And when you put a group of people in a church or a house of God together, there are several people dealing with the same issue, but you are looking to be offended because now you have to face the consequences of your offense. And now you're faced with the reality of your healing is before you. But if you're going to be healed, you're going to have to take the power out of your offense. And rather than to embrace that. You would rather attack me. Man, I don't know your business. He said, well, you said this, and that's exactly what's going on with me. And you said that, and me and my wife, we've been going through that. I said, sir, I didn't know you had a wife.
I know you did.
You've been coming here about 9 months. I've shook your hand a few times, but we've never had a conversation. You don't wear a wedding ring. I didn't even know you had a wife. So how could I be preaching your business? I said, but there are 10 other couples in this church that are going through the same thing you're going through. Get over yourself.
Yeah.
You're looking for someone to attack you. It ain't all about you. And guess what? Even if it were, can you see the healing and the hope in it rather than thinking that someone's trying to harm you? You asked a question earlier. Another thing you can do is ask yourself the question before you become offended: what value does the person have in harming you?
Yeah, and there's nothing to be gained.
There's nothing to be gained by harming you. There's nothing to be gained by me meaning you harm. So sometimes the battle in our mind says, he don't like you. He's trying to manipulate you. She's trying to harm you. She don't like you. She's trying to steal your position. But one of the questions you could ask yourself is, what does that person have to gain by harming me? And if you could answer that earnestly and truthfully, many times we will come to a place, nothing. The person has done nothing to me. The person has done nothing to me. I never forget, I had a good friend of mine. We were like brother and sister. She became offended, left my church. Took people from my church, told everybody I was the devil, the whole nine. And when I moved here to Dallas, one day she called me up and said, can we just meet at the mall? And I'm thinking, I really don't have anything to say to you. And the Holy Spirit told me to go. So I told Melita. Melita said, nah, let's just leave that alone. And so Melita was so upset about it. When we got to the mall, she said, I'm going to go and grab some, do some shopping. You can talk. And I said, well, what is it? She said, I just need to apologize. I said, well, what did I do? She said, nothing. The devil got in my head. And, I just crazy. I said, but do you realize some of the awful things you said about me to people? She said, I do. And that's why I drove 4 hours to apologize. She said, I wanted to look you in your face and tell you didn't do anything to me. I just want to apologize. Now, here was the thing. I was highly offended. I was really offended. But because I'm careful about how I manage offense, who was I to rob her of an opportunity to heal? And sometimes we have to examine our need to be offended and vindicated against the backdrop of the person's need to be healed. And she just said, you did nothing. I said, why did you say those things about me? She said, my anger gets out of control. My emotions get all over the place. And she said, honestly, some of the things I said, I'm just really sorry. And I know they got back to you, but I'm really, really sorry.
Wow.
And I said, it's okay. She said, can you ever forgive me? I said, I already forgave you. I forgive you right now. Now, of course, Melita was like, I forgive you, but there's no need to restore the relationship. Because, she said some bad things about me, my wife, my kids, my church, many of which was not true. Got with some of my other haters. Yeah. And my rule. If you hang with my hater, it's because you're one of my haters.
You're one of them. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
If my haters are comfortable with you, it's because you're a hater too.
Yeah, it says a whole bunch when someone becomes besties with your enemy, a known enemy.
Man, Jesus, say that. Would you say that again?
It says it's very telling when a person becomes besties with your enemy. And I'm not talking about an unknown enemy. I'm talking about a known enemy. They have bonded over and found fellowship in tearing your name down.
Yeah, and that's really that is when you really know that offense has taken over a person's life.
Yeah,
because there's no healing in that. There's no healing in it, and the goal should always be to move beyond and to heal. But if there's no healing in it, if there's no harmony in it,
none whatsoever.
If my camaraderie with John Doe is to talk about Avery Kinney, I really need to check myself.
Yeah, that's and there are some out there that do it, and I'm good. It used to bother me. But I'm finding the older I get, Apostle, some things just don't bother me the way they used to. I'm comfortable with who I am
Yeah.
and who I'm not.
And to add to that, not only am I comfortable with who I am, I would much rather be loved for who I am or hated for being who I am than loved for something I'm not.
Absolutely.
I would,
Absolutely.
you can hate me for being who I am, and I'm okay with that. And I'm not offended by that because that doesn't change who I am. Your perception of me does it should not change me.
Yeah.
But when you live a life out of offense, that does. You
It does.
allow people to change the structure of how you function. And no one deserves that much power.
Nobody.
No one.
I promise you, nobody. This has been a wonderful discussion, Apostle. I have so enjoyed this dialogue. When we get together, you never know where the conversation is going to go. We have have had a topic, and we did a very good job. I'm proud of us. We stayed on topic tonight.
For the most part, we veered off a couple times, but we got back.
We hit a lot. We hit a lot of areas. We've talked about quite a bit, and It's always my heart. I just believe that the Lord knows what He's doing when He gives me thoughts and subject matters to talk about, and because there's something that needs to be done. God provides information to us so that we can reassess, review, and reconsider where we are, so we can get to the place He's trying to navigate us to. And offenses can be a big blockage and so forth. And so we have to learn how to navigate the fence of offense. You have any final thoughts or observations or anything that you'd like to share, Apostle?
Yeah, just very quickly. If you're dealing with offense, realize that offense can be a poison, a contaminant, and don't let the pain of your past poison the promise of your future. Holding on to offense can be a very crippling element in your life. And there is peace beyond offense. There's so much peace beyond offense. Don't be so committed to validating the offense that you run yourself out of a place of being whole and healed and living in harmony. If you're in a marriage and you're offended, tonight would be a good night to sit down with your spouse and hear how they've been offended, why they've been offended. Tonight could be a good night of reconciliation. Just because there's offense doesn't mean that it has to be damaging, and offense does not have to be fatal. There is a particular fruit that can come from offense.
Wow.
And that fruit that comes from offense is predicated on how you manage it. Some of the greatest relationships have been birthed out of people who were first offended. You ever become friends with somebody that you had to fight first, and then after y'all fought each other, y'all were best friends?
Well, I have had a couple of friends that I didn't particularly care for, and anybody that knows me knows that I either like you or don't like you. There's no in between.
Yeah.
There's just no in between. There's no in between, and so I there's been some relationships birthed out of a person that I didn't particularly care for. And sometimes we hear things about people and we make assumptions and so forth. And so I realized that what I heard in my assumption was wrong. Being less mature back then and so forth, and have made some wonderful friends in a place that I didn't think that a relationship would be birthed out of.
And can I chime in right there?
Sure.
That's such a good point. If you're going to be angry with someone, if you're going to not like somebody, at least do it on the merit of what they've done and or said to you.
Right.
Not on the merit of what someone else has said about them. I live by this rule. You can't tell me anything about Avery Kinney. I'm going to treat Avery Kinney according to how I know him to be and who he's been to me. Whatever issue you have with him, that's your problem. You get it? I'm not saying that it's valid or invalid. I'm simply saying it's not going to become my issue. Whatever issue you have with Bishop, that's between you and Bishop. But I'm going to judge a person off the merit of what I know they've been to me. Now, what they've been to you, you could be telling the truth. They could be the worst person, but I've learned this. Your experience with someone else, with them, does not have to be mine.
Right.
Because it could all be a matter of perspective.
It definitely can be a matter of perspective, and that's just how my tribe rolls. Listen, there's nothing that nobody can bring to me about my friends, my tribe, the people in my inner circle, and so forth. I think that that's so important, because loyalty is not always displayed when I'm in the room, but when I'm not in the room, and so forth.
There you go.
How are you going? How do you cover me when I'm not in the room? How do you respond when my name is being dishonored or disparaging comments are being made about me when I'm not around? Are you finding fellowship and joining in that conversation, or are you covering me?
And can I drop another bombshell on?
Sure.
Most people make the mistake of believing that I'm a person's friend only because I only know the good about them.
Oh, come on, sir.
The truth of the matter is, my friends, I know they're good, bad, and they're ugly, and I still see purpose, value, and a reason for being in their life. So I'm not saying that they may not have some shortcomings. I'm saying they're my friend. And because they're my friend, I embrace who they are holistically while being able to be an asset to where they're going eternally.
Absolutely. Just like Joy just said, are you still loyal to me when I'm not around? That's important.
Listen,
that is so
your
important.
loyalty is only proven when I'm not around.
Absolutely.
And loyalty is my non-negotiable. Let me tell you something. I can be patient with a lot of stuff. Disloyalty, I'm sorry. That's a non-negotiable for me. People who are disloyal, I can disconnect from overnight, forget you ever existed. That is my non-negotiable, because if I am with you, I am with you. I am with you. I'm not saying you right all the time, but even if you're wrong, I'm with you. Now we're going to talk about you being wrong, but my sense of loyalty is I believe, if all the greatest attribute I believe I possess is loyalty.
Let me ask you a question, Apostle.
Sure.
Do you feel like it's being disloyal when you're venting to a friend about another friend or experience that you've had with that friend? Is that considered disloyalty?
It depends on how it's presented.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying? To be for you and I to be talking about JoJo Robinson.
Okay.
And you are venting about JoJo Robinson.
Okay.
You're not demeaning JoJo Robinson. You're not attacking JoJo's character. You're not putting JoJo down. You're saying, I'm frustrated with this particular situation. Now, my rule is this. Have you said this to JoJo?
Exactly.
Because if you've said it to JoJo and it's an ongoing issue and you've discussed it, okay, great. But if you're saying something to me that you've not said to JoJo, then I don't know if that's disloyal, because I'm with you. Disloyalty to me is when you go to my enemies knowing they're my enemies.
Right. Absolutely.
Because here's the thing. You can't be a frenemy of my enemies talking about you looking for clarity.
Right. Exactly.
I said it, I'm not going back. You can't be a frenemy of my enemies because you're looking for clarity.
That's good, sir. That is.
He ripped me off, and did he rip y'all off?
Yeah. Oh wow.
So for me, it really depends on the individual. Like for me, if I'm your friend, I could tell you when you're wrong.
Absolutely.
And there's nothing that put it this way. There's nothing that I have said about Avery that I ain't never said to Avery.
Right.
Period. And I'll go even further. There's nothing I'm ever going to say about Avery when I know people are already on the fence about whether they like Avery.
Right.
Because what I can say will sway them. And so my loyalty to him is, you know what? That's where he frustrates me. He could benefit them. Leave that alone.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
I get it. That's good, sir.
But when you form a new alliance with my enemy, there's no coming back from that. Keep it pushing.
I'm on a personal journey in my life, Apostle, where I'm trying to break unhealthy relationship habits. All my relationships, family, just any relationship. I'm trying to, learn, just break those unhealthy habits, because all of us have unhealthy habits. I don't care how anointed you are. I don't care how well traveled, well educated, and all of us have some unhealthy relationship
And
habits.
one of my unhealthy relationship habits used to be this: I knew how to fall in love with the people that were breaking me.
Wow.
I have since rectified that. I used to fall in love and want to fight for and love the people who were breaking me, despising me, backbiting me, and I'm just gonna love them to show them that I have value. Now I
Yeah.
fall out of love with what's hurting me. I reject and abandon what's breaking me.
Oh yeah, I have the gift to walk away.
Listen, let me tell you something. I am anointed with the gift of goodbye.
Mm, mm,
Oh,
mm,
I
mm.
could make you, I'm telling you, I could say goodbye to you so quick, so swift, make your head spin.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes, it's a
and
gift.
and I mean it. You don't mean that much to me. And I'll say this: when people show you who they are, believe them the first time if you're smart. When people show you who they are, believe them,
Absolutely. Oh my God.
preferably the first time.
Yeah. Oh my God. This has been
And I'm
so
gonna
great.
stop this. See, you got me stirred up now. Lord, you
Oh no,
stirred.
we're fine. Oh, you're fine. You're fine,
You
Lord.
stirred me up now. Listen. Disloyalty. People who are disloyal is because they never valued what you had in the first place. They were opportunists, and where they see a greater opportunity, they will move. But
They will
people
move.
who are loyal will be with you in your good season, will be with you in your season of plenty, will pray for you with your season of lean, will watch you and carry you and intercede for you through transition, will love you when you're up, will love you when you're down, will stand with you when you're going through. They will shout with you on the mountaintop, pray with you in the valley low, because loyalty says, I'm standing with you, and anything, I'm not only am I standing with you, but this is loyalty. I'm standing with you, and I'm standing against anything that opposes you.
Wow. This has been rich, sir. This has been rich.
Yeah.
It's been very rich. I have so enjoyed this dialogue. I've enjoyed you. Um, I'm full. I feel like I've eaten tonight.
Well, good.
I feel like I have eaten. I came to pour, but I feel like I've been poured into. And so I appreciate you, Apostle, for just being your transparency and being unselfish with your wisdom and unselfish with your time and your gift.
I appreciate the opportunity, and you may not know it. Sometimes this is therapy for me.
Yeah, I was going to say that because I know that you're working through a lot right now. And, I think that we as prophetic people, sometimes our healing is talking through
Yeah,
it.
yeah, and people in seasons like this, I have to really be able to, and this is just a moment of transparency, hopefully to bless some leader out there. In times like this, I have to really be able to compartmentalize, because when it rains, it pours. When the enemy is coming in your direction, he will use anybody and everybody. And oftentimes he'll use people closest to you to
Right.
bring you harm. We don't talk about this a lot, but the protection of greatness is real.
Oh, my.
It's real. And one of the biggest battles that we wrestle with is, as great people, as we walk into greatness, um, we are unprotected and uncovered often. And during this season, it's just important for me to really compartmentalize and say, okay, let's put this in perspective. Let's put that in perspective. And so that I don't let offense step in and waste precious time. So I
Absolutely.
appreciate the opportunity to do this.
Oh, you're so welcome, sir. You're so welcome. Listen, Prophet's Porch. I don't normally. I don't think on Tuesdays I've ever lifted, given an opportunity to sow, but I do want to give you guys an opportunity to sow on this Tuesday into what you have received. I see a lot of you have said you've been blessed by the word that has been ministered. and so forth. And so I want to, I just feel prompted to just to give you the opportunity to sow if you want to sow seed and so forth. The information is scrolling across the bottom of the screen. If you want to sow in the convenient ways that we give you to sow via Cash App, $ the Prophet's Porch, via Zelle, Avery Kenny at iCloud.com, and the information for PayPal is right there on the bottom of the screen. It's an opportunity. Listen, if you've been blessed by the word, if it has touched you, if it has helped you, then we want to provide you with the opportunity to sow seed.
Amen. Because the Bible says, for those of us who have fed you spiritual things, you should share tangible things. And so the mediums like the Prophet's Porch, let's just be honest, to put this together is a job within a job. It's a calling, it's a gifting, and it's made possible by the people who sow into it. We're in a world of ministry, a lot of virtual ministry, and to produce virtual ministry, I know a lot of people think that it's free and that it's cheap. I can tell you from experience, to produce quality virtual ministry is not a cheap, it's not a cheap venture. And so sow into this if it's blessed you, sow into it so that it stays around long enough to bless someone else. And who knows, one day you're drinking from the well. Who knows, keep the well flowing, keep the well full enough. Maybe one day someone will come and drink from your portion. And that's the true sign of maturity as a believer, is when I can go from being a drinker to being a well.
Wow. That's good, Apostle. I learned so much from you, sir. Oh my God. That was good.
You know, at one point, I'm bringing a cup.
Absolutely.
At another point, I'm the well to which the cups are being brought. And that'll preach all by itself.
It will preach all by itself. Elder Allen said, this is my second benediction. So I guess I've said, we've been trying to close for about 25 minutes now, but this has been so rich.
I'm gonna stop.
This has been rich. Listen, the information is at the bottom of the screen if you want to sow, and so forth. Apostle Williams, can you give us your Cash App if somebody wants to sow directly into you? I'd like them to have the opportunity to do that.
It's on the screen there. They should be able to see it on the screen. RWM Global. It's on the screen. It should be on the screen.
Okay.
$ RWM Global, Ray Williams Ministries Global, $ RWM Global.
Thank you so much for that, Apostle. Listen, we're going to be this series is going to go on for the rest of the month. We're going to have other guests and so forth. Who knows? We might have Apostle Williams back with us on Tuesday. You never know who the Holy Spirit is going to allow to grace us and so forth. I know that Pastor Iris is going to be with us at the end of the month. I'm excited about her being with me and just unpacking this subject matter, the fence of offense. Pastor Iris is full of faith, fire, and revelation, and I'm excited about her being with us. I was trying to get her to come on the screen and do a cameo and just greet the people, but she's had a hard day today, so I release her from doing that. She's had a tough day. This is a busy season for her at her job. And so our Prophet's Porch, thank you all so much. Thank you, Reset Church, for your support on tonight. That's my other family in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. Thank you all so much for your support and the love that you show me and Pastor Iris. Until the next time, thank you for being on the Prophet's Porch, the platform where the Lord is preparing the people to propel into purpose and destiny. I will see you at on Sunday morning at 9:45. The Lord has already given me a word. I'm excited about what the Lord wants to share with us on this Sunday. God bless you all, and you all have a wonderful rest of your week. Thank you again, Apostle Williams.
Thank you, sir.